Brand new from MJX. This is their new 20208. You know how much I love MJX products here on my channel. Who needs the Mini Maxx when you can have a Micro Maxx? Now, MJX have been doing some fantastic stuff over the last few years. We've seen some really cool new releases, and they just seem to be getting better. Okay, they did have a controversial release earlier on in the year, which was the 10208. Of course, that has now been sorted, and we do have the version 2, which does fix a lot of the problems the version 1 had. And I think MJX have now realized they need to be a little bit careful when it comes to sending out emails. I'm trying to think back, and I'm pretty sure the word tester was used in the emails. Anyway, all of that is now sorted. We're not here to talk about the 10208. No, we're here to talk about its baby brother, which is, of course, this little beast. And looking at it, well, of course, it does look a lot like the 10208, just a lot smaller. So this thing is 1/20th scale, and trust me, it is tiny. Now, I have had a closer look at this truck before coming out today, and I'm pretty certain it's 99% exactly the same as the JJRC truck that I featured a little while ago. Of course, it's not exactly identical. There's a couple of things that have been changed around on the MJX version, such as this one now comes with a clipless body, and I'm quite glad about that because the tiny little body clips on that JJRC version were a bit of a nightmare. This one actually has different tyres compared to that JJRC version. The very bright and colourful colour scheme on this actually looks really cool. So of course today we're going to give this thing a little run, but before we do anything, I want to talk about whether or not there is a place for little cars like this in the hobby. Now, we all know there's lots of mini RC cars out there. We're constantly seeing new ones enter the market. Some of them are really good and some actually turn out to be really bad. MJX seem to be the #1 brand at the moment when it comes to affordability. Most people go for one of the trucks in the Hypergo range as their very first RC car, and that's actually a really good thing to do because those little Hypergos are fantastic. But the real question is, do we really need a 1/20th scale RC truck like this little 20208? Yes, we do, because these little 1/20th scale trucks are so cool and they're very easy to throw into a bag and pretty much take with you anywhere. And yes, I know you can also do that with a lot of the other smaller cars out there, but look, really, who doesn't want a brushless 1/20th scale mini monster truck? Especially when it looks as cool as this. So this one has a plastic front bumper with LED light bar. We've got roof skids up on top, a wheelie bar on the back, and that will definitely come in handy because these little trucks are quite powerful considering their size. So let's take the body off and take a closer look underneath. Now, the body on this is going to be so much easier to remove compared to that little JJRC. I always thought I was going to be losing those body clips. So under here, everything is pretty much exactly the same as the bigger brother, the 10208, just obviously scaled down because this is much smaller. Yeah, this is pretty much identical to the JJRC. Of course, just like with that version, this one has oil-filled shocks, which is always nice to see and actually surprising to see on a tiny little 1/20th scale car like this. And if we can see oil-filled shocks on a tiny little car like this, why do we still see friction shocks on a lot of the mini RC cars that are currently being released? It's an ongoing issue, and unfortunately I don't think we're going to see the end of it very soon. One of the things you do notice is that big battery up on top, but it's not actually that big. It's only 850 milliamp hour. It is 25C. It's one of the things I wish they hadn't have done on this and just gave us a tiny little battery tray so we could have used a little LiPo. But I did mention it on the JJRC video. I'm pretty sure someone will be able to 3D print a battery tray so you can just fit your own battery up on top. MJX, for future reference, no one likes these. Again, just like the other version, we have got metal CVDs on the front. So we've got metal dog bones on the rear. You do get adjustable turnbuckles on the front. Of course, it does have that plastic chassis. And overall, it just feels like a very well put together little truck. Then again, so did the JJRC. But of course they are pretty much identical, so it is exactly as I expected it to be. Now let's talk about the electronics then, because this thing has a very unique power system. It actually features a brushless outrunner motor, and you can kind of see it down there. It is tucked away under there. Now, a little tiny car like this having a brushless system is usually unheard of. You don't usually see a brushless outrunner in a tiny little 1/20th scale basher like this. But look, it's really good that they've done this because it gives this little truck so much wheelie popping power. Of course, the ESC and servo and everything is all hidden underneath, but you don't care about that. You want to see this thing running. I have already speed tested the JJRC version, and I'll stick the result of that one up on the screen now. Of course, I'm going to speed test this one today, but it is a little bit wet, so that may affect our result. But essentially, I think they're pretty much going to be exactly the same. And I'm pretty certain MJX haven't adjusted the gearing or anything. Everything is identical. We're going to speed test it in a moment. The only thing I didn't mention was what you get in the box. Now, this is the transmitter, not too bad. Actually feels quite nice. You've got your usual adjustments there, like steering trim, throttle dual rate, and steering dual rate. You've also got your LED light button up on top there, and the on and off switch. No foam grip on the wheel this time, but this still feels really nice. In here, you've got a screwdriver, USB charger, and of course the black and white manual. So let's see how fast this one will go then. Let's start the GPS. So let's see how fast this will go then. It's very slippery today. Are we going to see exactly the same speed as the other version, the JJRC? I think we are. Oh, it's really struggling to get traction because it's so wet. Right, let's see. For a 1/20th scale RC car, you got to admit it is very impressive. Right, let's bring it back. Let's see what we got. "21 miles per hour, so that's actually slightly quicker than the JJRC. Now, the one thing I am noticing, it feels like there's a very slight throttle delay. I didn't feel that on the JJRC, but you can kind of see it on this one. It does feel like there's a little bit of a delay. Maybe the ESC on this one handles the power differently. I don't really know. All the power seemed to be instant on the JJRC. All the power from that motor seemed to kick in straight away on the JJRC version, but on this it just feels a little bit sluggish. Yeah, this doesn't feel great either. It's a bit of a weird one really, because this looks identical to the other one, but the power delivery is completely different and it just doesn't feel as nice to drive. So that's a little bit disappointing from MJX, because usually all of their stuff is really good. I think I've had enough of that. So there we go then guys, that was the new MJX 20208. Slightly disappointing if I'm honest, because I was expecting this thing to be as good as the JJRC, considering it's 99% exactly the same. But that JJRC seemed to perform slightly better, there was no throttle delay, and all the power came in really quickly. Whereas with this it feels a bit sluggish and it doesn't feel like the power kicks in straight away. Part of the reason why I love that little JJRC version was because it was bonkers. Whereas with this one it just feels a bit underwhelming. I don't know, maybe I got sent a bad one. At the moment I would say don't go for this one, go for the JJRC one. But moving forward, was this a good idea by MJX? I don't think it was. I don't know who came up with this design first. Was it MJX or was it JJRC? But if it was JJRC, I don't think MJX should have copied it. And that's because we're so used to seeing some really cool, innovative stuff coming from the guys at MJX. I really don't want them to go down the same route as WL Toys, where they just start copying everyone else. And we all know what's happened to WL Toys. They're pretty much at the bottom of the pile now. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. If you enjoyed today's video, why not check out the JJRC review that I did? Click the top video now, or if you haven't already seen it, check out my Christmas top 5.